Uptime Hack Games People Play by Eric Berne, MD. In a nutshell, Games People Play examines the psychology of the subconscious games we play with each other during social interactions, from the mundane to the downright manipulative. Favorite quote: "Beautiful friendships are often based on the fact that the players complement each other with great economy and satisfaction. There is a maximum yield with a minimum effort from the games they play with each other." Sue Zaloff-Schwartz, journalist. Introduction. Playing games in social situations is usually seen as something deceitful or manipulative. But the surprising truth is that we all do it, in all kinds of interactions. Eric Berne was a renowned psychiatrist who pioneered the concept of transactional analysis, applying game theory to human social behavior. Written as a manual for clinical therapists in 1964, Games People Play became an influential bestseller. In this Uptime Hack, discover how our behavior changes based on ego states, how that pushes us to engage in social games with one another, and how some of those games play out. Here are 3 key insights from this book. 1. We all house 3 distinct ego states. 2. Social transactions can be complementary or conflicting. 3. We can all become consciously aware of the games people play. Insight 1. We all house 3 distinct ego states. When engaging in social interaction, every individual is invoking one of 3 states of mind, known as ego states. These ego states are shifts in feelings and mental attitudes that lead to a change in behavior. The child state exhibits behavior fixated in early childhood, offering intuition, creativity, enjoyment, and spontaneity. A child reverts to certain behaviors that they're born with and is the origin of emotion and intimacy. We commonly revert to this state when we find ourselves in new, unfamiliar situations. For example, the parent state exhibits behavior resembling a parent to a child, making decisions intuitively based on previously established habits and rules. A parent will behave as their parents did to them in similar situations, and speak to those around them like children to be taught or scolded. The adult state exhibits an objective assessment of reality, processing data and using rationality to handle setbacks and successes. An adult uses logic to tackle problems and makes decisions based on the current situation. During any given social interaction, we are all engaged in at least one of these ego states, and we're able to shift between them throughout a conversation. All 3 ego states have value and are necessary to lead a productive and respectful life within a community. What's important is to be aware of your own ego states so that you can turn to them when they are most needed. This insight in action. Analyze your relationship with your parents. The way you behave in social situations can be hugely influenced by your relationship with your parents. Be aware of your own tendencies and notice how you interact with different personalities. Insight 2. Social transactions can be complementary or conflicting. Whenever 2 or more people are engaging with one another, they are involved in a social transaction. One person begins the exchange in what's called the transactional stimulus, and the other provides the transactional response. To determine whether a social game is being played between people, we must only look at what ego states they chose to invoke either in the stimulus of the exchange or in the response phase. Simple transactional analysis is concerned with diagnosing which ego state implemented the transactional stimulus and which one executed the transactional response. Eric Berne. The simplest social interactions occur when both or all parties are engaging their adult ego states, usually between people with whom we're not intimate. Ordering a cup of coffee from a barista, asking a colleague where the printer is, or any other conversations where there doesn't seem to be any subtext or hidden motivations. These involve the adult ego state. Another simple transaction is child-parent, most common between 2 people that are closely bonded. A child asks for an extra slice of pizza and the father provides, or a husband feels disappointed with his job interview and his wife responds with comfort and reassurance. As long as transactions are complementary, communication can proceed smoothly. But communication breaks down when a crossed transaction occurs. The most common crossed transaction is when the transactional stimulus is adult, but the response involves the child or parent ego state. One example of a crossed transaction would be an adult asking their spouse if they've seen their keys somewhere in the house. An adult response would be to simply say they're not sure, or to help speculate where the item might be. A parent ego response would scold the other person to keep better track of their things, while a child ego response would be to get defensive and claim that they had nothing to do with the missing keys. When a transaction crosses, the initial problem falls by the wayside and a game begins. Clear communication can't continue until the ego states once again become complementary. Either the agent must become parental as a complement to the respondent's suddenly activated child, or the respondent's adult must be reactivated as a complement to the agent's adult. Eric Berne. This insight in action. Be aware of your ego state. When you find yourself faced with a problem, be aware of what position you're putting yourself in. Are you behaving like a child? Are you reprimanding your friend as though you're a parent? Become aware of where you're placing yourself and learn to adjust. Insight 3. We can all become consciously aware of the games people play. In addition to complementary and crossed, there are ulterior transactions which occur when a participant activates multiple ego states at once. If a salesman says, "This one is better, but you can't afford it," he is seemingly stating two objective facts. An adult respondent would simply reply that he's correct. But the salesman is playing the game. He is attempting to activate a child ego in the customer so that they feel an urge to buy the unaffordable product just to prove the salesman wrong. A game is an ongoing series of complementary ulterior transactions progressing to a well-defined, predictable outcome. Every game is basically dishonest. Eric Berne. In one unconscious game, a domineering partner puts on a parental ego state by giving orders, while their restricted partner puts on a child ego state by accepting and following them. While this relationship may seem toxic to modern audiences, it can be a complementary transaction. Each partner may have subconsciously chosen the other specifically because they wish to be treated this way. Despite the fact that we all engage in these psychological games, the way to a more fulfilling life is to learn to live without them. Games make us feel at ease, as they allow us to engage with people without having to be vulnerable. But vulnerability and intimacy are necessary for human connection and allow us to connect with those around us on a deeper level. Although it may be difficult, we need to learn to be honest about what we want and encourage others to do the same in order to become the best possible versions of ourselves. This insight in action. Understand your fights. If you find yourself in constant tension with your partner or loved ones, step back to explore the reasons why. Are you often fighting about the same underlying problem? Assess your behaviors and try to reach solutions as adults as often as possible. Be honest with yourself and others. Never assume that someone else knows what you want or what you're thinking. Look at yourself honestly and ask yourself what you need. Then, if it's someone else who can give it to you, just ask for it. Be upfront and honest. Take action. Analyze your relationship with your parents. The way you behave in social situations can be hugely influenced by your relationship with your parents. Be aware of your own tendencies and notice how you interact with different personalities. Be aware of your ego state. When you find yourself faced with a problem, be aware of what position you're putting yourself in. Are you behaving like a child? Are you reprimanding your friend as though you're a parent? Become aware of where you're placing yourself and learn to adjust. Understand your fights. If you find yourself in constant tension with your partner or loved ones, step back to explore the reasons why. Are you often fighting about the same underlying problem? Assess your behaviors and try to reach solutions as adults as often as possible. Be honest with yourself and others. Never assume that someone else knows what you want or what you're thinking. Look at yourself honestly and ask yourself what you need. Then, if it's someone else who can give it to you, just ask for it. Be upfront and honest. Wrap up. We all play social games. Some can be playful and flirtatious, but some can be poisonous and manipulative, which is why learning more about your own social psychology is so important. Awareness of different types of social games allows us to transcend our social programming and critically analyze our own behavior.